We've been around since about 2009. I've personally been involved for a few years longer than that. InsightWorks didn't really, officially start selling to, people outside of our little local customer base until, sort of the 2012, 2013 timeframe. But since then, we've got, thousands of installs globally. We actually started with Business Central in 2017, which actually predates Business Central. It used to be the Project Madeira and then the whatever finance thing they called it. I can't even remember the name anymore. So we were actually one of the first apps up on App Store way back when. And most of the stuff we have now, it goes straight to the app source. Mostly work in North America, but we do have offices in Europe, and we do work globally. So if you happen to have customers with, offices throughout the world, we can handle that as well. So these are, this slide kind of gives us all the solutions that we have available. And I'm going to use this to sort of describe the solutions, and then we'll jump in and have a look at some of them in a sec here. But the ones you'd be most familiar with are Warehouse Insight and a few of the others. But Warehouse Insight is the full WMS solution. So it's the full-blown warehouse management for Business Central, cloud or on-prem, but I think you're mostly cloud, and you plug it in and get going. Shop Floor Insight is more for the manufacturing floor, so that's capturing, labor time, labor activities, quality, those sorts of things from the shop floor from a manufacturing perspective. Dynamic Ship is another one that needs it. So we actually see with Business Central Cloud, we actually see this one going out in sort of the phase one of the deployments. Some of these other things like the warehouse management and shop floor and some of those other things, people wait, okay, we got Business Central up, let's do phase two, which happens to be, shop floor improvements or warehouse improvements. But Dynamic Ship tends to be part of the initial implementation in a lot of Business Central implementations because, everybody needs shipping, and this makes it quick and easy to ship things. And it doesn't add a very huge additional cost to an implementation of Business Central for software or services. The advanced inventory count, typically that's going with Warehouse Insight or this Wms Express I'll talk about, but it is definitely a must-have for anybody with serial numbers, lot numbers, well, anybody with a lot of inventory. I mean, this thing does pay for itself very quickly and easily, but that tends to not get sold standalone that often. The product configurator, that's a basic configurator, right? So it allows you to go in and set up a product with options, and then select those options at point of sale, right, through a sales quote or sales order, and it'll build up a bill of materials and a routing and everything else for you. So we support assembly orders or production orders, and it makes it quick and easy to build up these different configurations of products. Right? MXAPS, I'll talk about that in a sec as well, but that is a product we've had for a long time. And it's used in a lot of larger organizations for doing their production scheduling. So APS is Advanced Planning and Scheduling. So it's finite capacity scheduling for Business Central. So this is a major gap for anybody doing any kind of manufacturing. Scheduling is a major gap within Business Central. Business Central really has nothing good to offer in that realm. And there is nothing really else out there for doing that automated scheduling. So that is probably anybody that's got, more than 100 production orders, a reasonable size shop, like 20, 30 employees and up, looking at that makes a lot of sense. The way, planning worksheet, it's not officially released for Business Central yet, but it's on its way. And what it does is just provides a much better tool for doing your planning. So it's like the existing Business Central planning worksheet. And from a demo perspective, by the way, it's definitely worth having that guy in your Business Central database once it's available. Because, if you're showing the planning worksheet, it looks very plain and boring and not all that user-friendly. Enhanced planning worksheet, it's a lot more graphical, gives you a lot more information, more of a dashboard for your planning than the standard planning worksheet. And it also does distribution planning. So if you're dealing with a distribution center, it's not really manufacturing planning, then this will work a lot better than the standard Business Central stuff. On the counter sales thing, that's basically point of sale. So we see that used a lot in standard retail operations, but what it's intended for is like a parts counter or a service counter, those sorts of things. And what we've got coming out for that later is actually a service module for that counter sales as well. So we'll talk about that in a sec too. But the counter sales is really, you know, I'm a manufacturer with a parts counter, or I'm a distributor with an outlet store, parts counter, or something like that. More of the B2B type sales, but also B2C, right? You know, it's meant for professional, you know, parts people, if you will, or counter sales people. Like if you go onto Lowe's or something and you go up to their, you know, trade desk, they're not working in a point of sale system. They're working in a system where they can look things up and check others, all that kind of stuff. That's what counter sales is. And license plating is 99.9% of the time goes with Warehouse Insight. It's just one of those advanced modules for warehouse management. Now these guys below, so these are all the applications that are available at no cost from AppSource. So there's really no registration or anything. I mean, you do have to type in your email address and stuff, but there's no registration. There's no, you know, getting a license, anything like that. You install it and you can start using it. And so it makes it easy for customers to get into it. It makes it easy for you to set it up in your demo environments, everything else. And why would you want to do that? Well, Wms Express here, this is the free version of Warehouse Insight. So it does everything you need, you know, sort of the core capabilities within the warehouse for receiving, picking or shipping, inventory counts, and coming out soon, movements as well. So you've got everything you need to run a warehouse using barcoding, and it's completely free. Now there's some limitations on that. Currently it's limited to 5 devices per company. We may extend that, but you know, if you've got 5 devices or less, and that's concurrent, so you could have 10 devices out there, but if only 5 are ever in use at the same time, Express would actually work with that. And so yeah, completely free, plug it in and away you go. If we supply the hardware for it, you can get devices from $600 and up, and they come preloaded with the software, so it's a couple beeps and you're up and running. It's pretty slick. And people can try it out on their phones. You can use the camera as a scanner. You wouldn't want to use the camera in real life. It's pretty slow and clunky, but dedicated scanner works very well with it. All right, Graphical Scheduler. If you're, again, in manufacturing, this allows you to do visual drag and drop scheduling. So if you don't want that automated scheduling that something like MS APS provides, you can do manual scheduling using the Graphical Scheduler. Again, completely free, and it's also wide open. You can actually make it do almost anything you like. The default is just sort of production orders. It plots production orders, but you can go in there and have it graph anything you want within Business Central with a little bit of configuration. You can have sales orders on there. You can have to-dos or tasks or whatever you want to put on that scheduler. You can plug in. Print node connector. This is almost a must-have for anybody on Business Central Cloud. The connector is free, so the Cloud Print connector is free. You do have to sign up with printnode.com. They charge $9 a month for the typical plan, or there's a free version of PrintNode as well. And now you can do cloud printing. So what that means is you can hit print, and the document just shows up on the printer without having to pop up the browser's print dialog or any of those sorts of things. Or you can hit print, and a label comes out on one printer and a packing slip on another printer, and so on and so forth. So it really does give you that, you know, sort of desktop printing experience from Business Central in the cloud. So almost a must-have. Now that sort of competes with the Microsoft's Universal Print capability. So Microsoft has their own cloud print called Universal Print, but it's ridiculously expensive currently. So until they change that pricing model dramatically, PrintNode is the way to go. Barcode Generator allows you to add barcodes to your reports. So we ship a dozen or more sample reports with the system. But it's a nice tool for sort of generating ad hoc barcodes, and also creating your own item labels, or documents with barcodes on it. Any of those sorts of things is what we'd use Generator for. Finally, Doc Extender is also another really simple must-have for anybody that just needs to be able to attach documents in Business Central. So it allows you to drag and drop any document, email attachment, file out of the folder, drop it into Business Central, and it'll attach in SharePoint or right inside Business Central itself. So that's basically it. Now, if there's any additional questions, or if you want to look at any of this stuff, you can just go to the website and use the contact form, or contact us at sales@wmsiworks.com. Okay, the only one on here, not on here, is wmsexpress.com, which is a good one. If you go to wmsexpress.com, it sort of breaks out, you know, what the differences are between the Express version and the full version. But it's, again, that Express is pretty significant. We've had people, you know, cancel their paid subscriptions to Warehouse Insight and go to Express because it does everything they need. So it's not just a little toy application that's sort of a, you know, small bite, and to do anything meaningful, you have to use the paid version. It's actually pretty comprehensive. All right, now I'll pause there because that was a lot of talking, and probably everybody's sleeping now. But any questions before I jump in and show you a couple of these things? You know, you may have already seen WMS Express and Dynamic Ship and all those sorts of things. What I'll do is I'll just focus on a couple of things that you may not have seen yet. More on the manufacturing side to start, but we can go any direction you like on this. So the first one is that I'll talk about is that Graphical Scheduler, which again is the free tool. And again, you can install it. You just install it, you run the assisted setup, and it will show you your production orders graphically, and you can, you know, click on these things and you can, you know, drag and drop them around and all sorts of stuff. Right, so it'll show you all the linkages, and you can zoom in and all that sort of thing. But basically, you install this thing, you run assisted setup, and you can now see your schedule. And you can set up color rules. So this is the loading, right? So this tells me blue is good and orange is, you know, bad or nothing scheduled. And if I scroll down, I've got ones with red that are overloaded. So that's the kind of thing you can do. You can change colors on anything. Like if this production order is late, you could turn it red, or if you've got a priority field on there, you could change the color, all those sorts of things. But this particular view here really illustrates how bad Business Central is at scheduling. So, you know, we generated all these production orders based on a forecast, and this is what Business Central will do. It'll just dump everything in, right? We've got one welding work center, and it just dumps everything in there, and that's impossible to execute. You can't do that. And not only that, we don't want it at the work center, we want it at the individual, you know, machine center level here. These individual welders, we want to split this work across these two welders as much as possible. So even though, you know, the Graphical Scheduler is great at showing you what production orders there are, allowing you to drag and drop production orders, all of those sorts of things, it, you know, nobody will want to use something like this to do manual scheduling. Business Central generated a schedule like this for me, and I had to drag and drop, you know, these 100 operations or whatever it is across all the work centers. I would die. You don't want that. But that's what people are faced with in Business Central today. As a matter of fact, in Business Central today, you don't even have a graphical scheduler out of the box. There is really no way to visualize your schedule and to manipulate it. At least with this, I can come in here. If I've got a reasonable schedule, I can do things like drag and drop and all that kind of stuff to, you know, move the schedule around and everything else, right? So I can do all that, but nobody wants to. Nobody wants to do that drag and drop. So what we have instead is we have the MX APS tool, where what that allows you to do is you just run, you know, you hit a button, generate production or generate schedule, and it'll come in here and it'll generate a schedule for you. And this is the schedule, which you look at that and you go, that is a lot of text and I don't care, I don't want to read that. But if we look at the difference between that and what Business Central did out of the box, it's pretty dramatically different. So this is the schedule that MX produced, right? If we come down to that welding thing I was talking about, it took all of those welding operations and it split them up across those two welding work centers all automatically, and it created that schedule for me. So this purple or magenta or whatever it is setup time, and this is runtime, and it's created an executable schedule for me. And it takes about 10 seconds for this many production orders to run that schedule, and we're done. So this is huge, right? So if you're in any manufacturing facilities, clients, even if they don't have a ton of production orders, it is absolutely worth doing this. Yeah, it's a bit of a game changer in Business Central. Instead of people buying Business Central and figuring out how they're going to schedule stuff, they'll buy Business Central because it has that level of scheduling capability. If you're up against anybody else, any other platform, we can kick their butt on the scheduling side. So manufacturers have no excuse to not buy Business Central at this point. if you think about how many organizations out there do some kind of service work, right? Anything. You bought a bike rack and something's happened with it and you take it in for them to fix it, you know, so, or a hot tub or a car or whatever. Like, so many organizations have some sort of service component to their business. Well, in Business Central, that's painful, right? A lot of the smaller guys or the ones that don't have a significant service requirement might just use sales orders or something like that. Some try to use service orders. Well, that hurts. That's sucky. Or jobs or something along those lines. Well, this basically gives us a dedicated mechanism for handling service without having to, use the service module in Business Central or do any sort of hacks. So the way it works, we've got our concept called service units. This one is set up to deal with mostly vehicles, right? So I can come in here and I can look at all my vehicles and everything, but we can set it up for different types of service unit. And the way it works is, we can either come in just like, this is based on our counter sales product, by the way. So it's again meant for, people behind a service counter or parts counter. And so all those capabilities in counter sales, like taking multiple payment methods, taking deposits, all that kind of stuff are there. But the way it would typically work is if somebody walks in, I can just use this take booking thing. I can book something or start a work order immediately right at that point in time. If somebody phones up, I can also do it based on the calendar. So I can come in here and say, here's my service calendar for, this week or whatever. And I can also choose other locations. So if my shop is full, I can choose one of the other locations and see a calendar from a different location. But somebody phones up and says, hey, I want to bring my bike in or my car or whatever you're working on in, when do you have time? I say, yeah, I can do, Wednesday at 9. So I create that booking and then I just come in here and I can use all the sort of counter sales stuff to search for the person I want to do a booking for. You don't have to create new customers if they're going to be cash sales. They're just contacts. So it's, it makes it more like a point of sale type thing that people at the counter can actually manage, right? If I didn't find the guy I'm looking at, I can create a new customer here. We're actually creating a new contact behind the scenes, but it's treated just as if they were a customer that's going to pay us or give us deposits or whatever. But yeah, if I choose that guy, I can then come in and say, well, what unit is it that you're bringing in? And I can choose the unit that they're bringing in, and away we go. Or I can come in and create a brand new service unit for them if I want, right? And those service units can have photos, they can have whatever you want associated with them. Anyway, I'll create the booking. You can put in work description, all sorts of different stuff here, assign it to people. We have something called service packages where you can create a package for service, right? In this case, it's an oil change, so it includes labor, parts, everything in one package. Could be, bike tune-up or, pool startup, right? You want to go out and, get somebody's pool running for the season or whatever. You can have all those different packages, and that's it. So we've created that booking. And by the way, because I chose that service package, it changed the expected service time to 1 hour because the service package is a 1 hour service, but I can change that time and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, that's the booking. And then, Wednesday morning rolls around, the guy comes up. He's like, yeah, I'm Robert here. I'm here for my thing. We open it up and we create the work order directly from this. And it's going to go in and it's going to create our counter sales service order. And that's what we work from. And we can print it out. There we go. So there's my work order. It'll print out. They can sign it, all that kind of stuff. Or I can come in here, enter additional details for the unit. Like if it was a new unit, I could enter the new serial number or mileage or hours or whatever I want to include on that. And I'm good to go, right? And I can add service packages in here. I can take payments. I can do all sorts of stuff from here, right? So again, if I want to come in here and say I want to do an inspection or something along those lines, I'm going to say it's going to take 3 hours, and I can calculate, like this is our configurator that's being used here for the service packages. So I can have it calculate shop supplies. I can choose parts based on the specific unit I've chosen. I can do all sorts of stuff, and it'll create that, that order, that work order for me, and I can manage it all from sort of the one spot. So I've got everything I need to manage that service from this one screen. So that's basically it. I mean, that's a little overview of the service module. Anything else on this or any of the new stuff coming up at all? You know, what we talked about with WMS Express is, you know, warehouse management, but really this is good for any organization. Like anybody that's buying Business Central is probably doing it because they've got inventory. So, you know, the fact that they have inventory means that they can probably get value out of something like this, because if they're receiving something or if they're shipping something, I mean, with the barcode on the product, technically you don't even need barcodes on any of the items. You can use this to do all your inventory management, even if you're not running a warehouse. Right? So it could be a retail store that you're doing inventory counts with or whatever. And this little device here, that Memoir K that's shown in this picture, I mean, that's $600. You can use a phone if you want, but for $600, you get a dedicated little device, free software, and you can do barcoding as much as you like, right? Do your retail store counts, do your distribution center receiving and picking, whatever you want. So definitely a good tool to have. If they have items with barcodes on them, which, you know, lots of stuff comes now with barcodes, right? Especially if it's, you know, retail or consumer packaged goods or any of that kind of thing. Just the ability to do your inventory counts by barcode is a massive savings, and it doesn't cost you anything, right? So anyway, I'll leave it at that for now. But yeah, it does support distribution centers all the way to, you know, very basic stuff like a retail store. Okay, I think I've talked myself out unless there's anything else you guys want to cover.
Hey, Mark, what are your most popular products right now for Business Central?
Warehouse Insight, like for paid, it's going to be Warehouse Insight is the most popular. Well, that and Dynamic Ship are probably the two most popular. On the free, yeah, I don't know. Maybe PrintNode and Doc Extender maybe get the most. We get about 500 downloads a month of the free products across the board. So Express accounts for maybe 100 a month of those, something like that. So yeah, and PrintNode is another big one. We get a ton of downloads of that.
So, I mean, WMS Scheduler, we kind of talked about just real high level. What does Doc Extender do?
Yeah, so Doc Extender, I can show you on this tab here. If I open up one of those sales orders, I think I have it set up here because every install needs it. But basically,
Yeah,
oh, look at that, I don't have it installed. So yeah, basically it puts this little guy here on the attachments box. Yeah, and then what that lets you do is if I've got, you know, email attachment or emails or whatever, I can come in, you know, grab a bunch of files, drag them over, drop them, and it will, you know, I've already dropped this one on here, so it says, would you like to rename it? And that's a setting you can do. And another one that I got to rename, and I've clearly dropped all those before, and that's it. Here's all of the attachments.
And are those becoming objects in the database?
Yeah, so these are the same as if I went into the normal attachments, hit this, and then hit, you know, manage, or sorry, what do I have to do to add one? I don't even know what I have to do to add one. Oh, probably just start a new record. Anyway, so you'd go in here, and this is how you would add it in here. I can just drag and drop those. These guys below are stored on SharePoint. So you can also come in and set this thing up to store these files on SharePoint instead if you prefer. It's kind of neat how it does it, is it creates a subfolder called sales orders and another subfolder for the sales order number. So you can actually go into SharePoint and you can, without having to go into Business Central, you can find it by the document, like the
order number
from Business Central and the key, the primary key from that record.
Okay, cool. Barcode Generator, obviously, we know what that is. Navex Tender.
Yeah, it doesn't apply to cloud, so that's, and this is probably, I mean, it's Roll Taylor client, so it's the same as Doc Extender, but if you're running the Windows client.
Okay, so it's for local. And then the PrintNode connector, is that something that'd be relevant for BC?
Everybody needs that, yeah.
BC Cloud?
Yeah, BC Cloud. Well, even if people that are running it on Azure and stuff, but yeah, BC Cloud, everybody needs it. It's the cloud printing, right? So it's the equivalent of Microsoft's Universal Print, but the Universal Print from Microsoft is ridiculously expensive right now, so this is the way to go. So you sign up with PrintNode. They have a free plan, which is very lightweight, and their paid plan is $9 a month for most people, and that gets you the cloud printing.
Okay. All right, cool. Awesome.
Yeah, the idea behind this is give you a bit of an overview, a bit of a long-winded overview today. But anyway, give you a bit of overview of the products, and then you choose what's of interest to you, and then we can do a deeper dive into these guys.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
You bet.